They're expecting Kraven the Hunter to tank really hard.
Let's do another Morbius and get them to put it in theaters twice so it can tank twice.
I kind of want to go and see it just to say, you know what? I was there. I sat there. I suffered through this film.
Yeah, I'm fine waiting until that one's on streaming. I already know how the entire movie's gonna go, because they use the same plot for all those movies. Kraven is gonna have, a dark version of himself, and he's gonna be an anti-hero. He's going around hunting everything, but then there's an evil version of him that's doing things the wrong way, and he's got to fight him, and it's like same against same. And then he's gonna have to eventually kill what I assume is his brother and or his dad. Then he becomes sort of a hero at the end.
And the last shot is him throwing a spear directly at the camera.
Yeah, I can see it.
And speaking of throwing spears, Steve, do you want to get started?
Right in the face. Let's go.
All right. Hit that intro.
Two friends named Corey and Steve like talking about films and TV. They thought, hey, what if this was a show? That's how we got here, now you know. Wait, what's the name? That sounds terrible, go on. That sounds terrible, go on. We hope you stick around and have some fun right after our intro song. That sounds terrible, go on.
Welcome back, folks, to another fantastic episode of That Sounds Terrible, Go On. I'm your host, Corey.
And I'm a host, Steve. Hello.
Steve, you are the host of the season, the toast of the town, the red nose to my heart. What?
That sounds medically concerning.
Probably so, but at least you're not a reindeer.
Oh, that's true. They are the most evil creatures on the planet.
Well, that is except for the reindeer we're talking about today, Steve.
We'll see.
Hey, this is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the 1964 stop-motion Christmas classic.
A reindeer with a red nose? Oh, I don't want a reindeer that's different from everybody. To heck with him.
You know what? You're right. Different is bad. You heard it here, folks. Conform, 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 even if it means getting plastic surgery.
Yeah, Rudolph, it's not that hard.
But you know what was hard, Steve? No. No, that's the second it left my mouth.
It was hard the second it left your mouth.
I can never finish the job. But anyway, Steve, we, of course, are talking about, as we said, the 1964 stop-motion classic from Rankin and Bass, the one that, in all honesty, started the line of amazing Christmas TV specials. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Oh, the one and only. This is certainly something.
He's the one with the shiny nose. There's monsters. There's romance. There's songs. There's even a talking snowman, your favorite.
I do love them talking snowmen. They're pretty great. But, when you think about them, they're a little off-putting. You see them walking around and talking, and you start to wonder, don't I know you?
Don't you?
Let's find out.
Let's.
All right, for our first question, much like Herbie the elf who dreams of being a dentist, what job would you dream of if you were an elf that hated making toys?
You know what? Elf stand-up comedian, because those elves have to have some other form of entertainment up there other than just making toys, right? You're telling me there's no open mic nights?
Ooh, that's a good choice. I like it.
And what's the deal with bells on everything?
Yeah, I'm jingling, you're jingling, everybody's jingling! Can't go anywhere without a jingle!
It would absolutely be a hit. Steve, what about you?
I was thinking architect. There's always going to be elves up there. They presumably keep having more elves, and they gotta live somewhere. Santa's got that old castle. It's got to get maintained and added upon over time. Like they need buildings. I think an elf architect would be handy.
But what happens if one of them asks you to design a room, and you're pretty sure it's a murder room? How are you gonna do that?
You can't design a murder house.
Hermie, you can't design a murder house. Aw, jeez.
This meat is so rare.
I want tinsel hanging from the ceiling exactly 4.5 feet. It also needs to have a soundproof room for when I launder. I launder very loudly.
You can't design a murder house, Ted. Shout out to the 3 people that get that reference. Question number 2. Rudolph and Herbie eventually make their way to the island of misfit toys. So, Corey, if you were a resident of this island, what kind of misfit toy would you be?
You know what, Steve? I'd be one of those pull string dolls, but every time, I'd say something, it would be honest, but I'd be an honest politician doll.
Yikes.
Yeah, that's right. We're getting real here.
Does that come complete with closet skeletons, or are those extra?
Actually, no, that doesn't work. I'm an honest politician. That's what makes me a misfit. Honest. So I would have no skeletons in my closet.
Oh, I see. I thought you were like a politician that was being honest about all the bad things they had done. Like a politician who's just honest.
Yeah, they can't be allowed in Congress.
You got me there.
But Steve, what about you? What misfit toy are you going to be?
I would be a toy car that has the parking brake permanently engaged. The wheels just don't move whatsoever.
Or if they do, it's like a grinding noise.
Yes.
Like a very disturbing grinding noise. Can you turn that off? Sure can't.
Question 3. In the climactic moments of this cinematic masterpiece, there is a giant snowstorm that threatens Christmas for Santa Claus. So, Corey, have your Christmas plans ever been derailed by a snowstorm?
I can confidently say, no, they haven't. We both grown up in Rochester. I'm not afraid of snow, and worst case scenario, like, oh, we're just staying home. That's it. But what about you, Steve?
Well, yeah, actually, a couple years ago, there was massive snowstorms across much of the country, and they were so bad that they shut down the airports, including the one that I was meant to fly into for Christmas. That flights got canceled for like the next several days afterwards. I stayed home for that Christmas, and then a month or 2 later, I ended up going out there instead for a belated Christmas.
I remember that. We were very sad you didn't make it in time.
Me too. Stupid weathers. And now, I know you.
And I know you. All right, folks. Wrapping up Don't I Know You. Moving on to our next segment. But first, a quick break from our sponsors.
Hey, folks, did you know that we're a couple of corporate whores? We will do whatever you say for money. That's right. We'll give an ad that promises the world to your potential customers for whatever you're trying to sell. Is it true? Doesn't matter. Is it going to work? Still doesn't matter. Give us $5, give us $10. We'll make all your dreams come true as long as your dreams are limited to having your product hawked on our podcast.
But Steve, what if I don't have an advertisement written for you?
Well, for a small extra fee, we can write one for you, aka make one up on the spot and half-ass it.
That's right, folks. If you have any interest in advertising with us, please hit us up on our Instagram at That Sounds Terrible Pod, or find us on Twitter by looking up That Sounds Terrible. Go on.
Slide into our DMs so we can slide into your ads. We're going to do an ad for you.
That's right, folks. Fill our bank accounts so we can line your pockets with that sweet, sweet internet money. Welcome back, folks.
Hey there.
Steve, it is getting cold outside.
Yeah, I mean, it's down into like the 60s today. Brr.
We were below the 40s here in Rochester today. I hope you know that.
Oh, I was hoping it would be something like that. Tell you, it's so chilly out here, I have to put on a sweater to go outside.
But you know who actually ends up warming your heart, Steve?
The fires of my hatred.
That and the members of our cast and crew!
Oh, it's the cast and crew!
As always, folks, with the cast and crew, we're going to be talking about some cast members. We're going to be talking about some crew members. Now, are we able to get to every single person here?
Oh, absolutely. Even the PAs that got the coffee for the Rudolph.
Listen, we appreciate them for filling those coffees with cocaine, but we just can't do it. Steve, this is going to be one hell of a long episode. I'm warning you right now. We don't have the time, so we're not going to do it. But folks, if you think there is somebody that we should have covered, please hit us up on our Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube page. Kicking off, of course, we have the director, Mr. Larry Romer. Now, Romer is best known as the director for 1964's animated TV film Return to Oz, as well as an associate producer on ABC's The King Kong Show. Unfortunately, he would pass away in April of 1995.
I thought Return to Oz was live action.
It was. There was an animated film first.
What? So they returned to Return to Oz?
Like VHS tapes back in the 90s. Everyone's returning.
I have to return some videotapes.
But Romer, direction, let's talk it. First off, the voice acting is pretty solid. And as a director who's doing claymation, you got to do both, right?
True.
So let's talk the voice acting. Voice acting, I enjoyed it. I think every line was hit as it needed to be. There wasn't any like flubs or anything along those lines. What'd you think of it?
Yeah, we got competent performances out of everyone. I especially enjoyed Yukon Cornelius, but we'll get to him. I think, yeah, overall, the casting worked. The characterizations were on point.
And what did you think of the stop motion?
For the time, it's excellent. I feel like these days we're kind of spoiled with stop motion because when people do it, they animate on the ones, and on this, they're animating on the twos or the threes pretty clearly. For those that are unaware what that means, video or film goes at 24 frames per second. That means every second you see 24 different still images played one after each other. Back in the day, to save costs on animation, they would only animate it at 12 frames per second, which it would be every other frame, aka on the twos. It might even be, quick math here, 8 frames per second, which would be on the threes. It gives it that more choppy look, and it's kind of pretty common for the time to have it that way. These days, you'll notice when people do stop motion, it is a lot smoother. That's because they are animating on the ones.
Yeah, and I think I fully agree with that take there. This is from the 60s, the mid 60s at that. And I'll be honest, as a kid watching this on one of those tube TVs, it looked pretty great. But watching it now on more of like a flat screen, especially when everything's much brighter and you get to kind of see little mistakes they make here and there, it's not as good, but we're going to consider this for the times and say this was pretty damn good for the mid 60s stop motion animated holiday special. What a sentence.
I don't think you have enough qualifiers in there.
But you know who might have more qualifiers, Steve?
Who's that?
Our writer, Romeo Muller. Now, Muller is best known as the writer of other holiday TV specials, such as 1968's The Little Drummer Boy, 1971's Here Comes Peter Cottontail, 1969's Frosty the Snowman,
Episode 38,
1970's Santa Claus is Coming to Town, 1975's Rudolph's Shiny New Year, 1977's Nestor the Long-Eared Christmas Donkey, and 1979's Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. He's also the sole writer on other TV specials, such as 1977's The Hobbit animated adaptation, 1978's Puff the Magic Dragon, and 1987's The Wind in the Willows. He has been nominated for 1 Hugo Award. And unfortunately, he would pass away in December of 1992 after a heart attack in his sleep. The script is pretty tight. They don't leave a lot of room for the plot to stop, and I get that's, they only had about an hour, roughly, on TV to get this through.
Yeah, everything moves along at a pretty rapid pace. They even managed to cram about a half a dozen Christmas songs in there. It's really the only time the plot slows down, and it only slows down for like 30 seconds or a minute while they sing, and then they're right back into moving things forward. I'll be honest, this is like the first time I've watched this all the way through since I was a very small child, so some of these plot points were, I guess, unfamiliar to me and new, but I thought, yeah, pretty competent storytelling.
No, not really many notes for that. He took the story of Rudolph and he based this all off the song, too.
Right.
We'll get to the reasons why once we get to our next segment. But I feel like with what he was given, he did a great job. Because keep in mind, he created all of these other characters. He created the Bumble. He created Yukon Cornelius. He created Hermie, Clarice, even Fireball. He created all of these characters. And the Island of Misfit Toys, he completely created every single one of those. I think that's a really strong script based off just creativity alone.
Yeah, a lot of imaginative characters for sure. Especially Yukon Cornelius.
Can't wait to get to him. But next up, of course, we have to talk about the producers. The legends that are Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass. Now, Rankin and Bass are best known as Well, the producers of Rankin Bass Productions. They have produced such animated hits as 1977's The Hobbit, 1982's The Last Unicorn, 1987's The Wind in the Willows, 1968's The Little Drummer Boy, 1969's Frosty the Snowman, 1970's Santa Claus is Coming to Town, 1975's Rudolph Shiny New Year, 1977's Nestor the Long-Eared Christmas Donkey, 1974's The Year Without a Santa Claus, and 1979's Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. They were also the producers on the syndicated cartoon series Thundercats.
Oh!
They have both been nominated for one Primetime Emmy Award, one Hugo Award, and they are winners of one Peabody Award. Unfortunately, Rankin would pass away in January of 2014, and Bass would pass away in October of 2022. If you watched holiday specials growing up, you had to have seen at least one thing from Rankin Bass.
Or inspired by them.
At the very least. The legendary status of these two when it comes to stop motion, let alone TV specials, I say it's unmatched.
Yeah, I mean, you think stop motion, these are what always come to mind. These are top of the pile, the most iconic.
And for the most part, they hold up too, which is, I think, what's so great about being able to watch them once a year whenever they air on TV, or if you feel like streaming it from something. They never feel truly dated for the most part.
Yeah, because they've got that fantasy otherworldly feel to them. They got magic.
And magic is what I crave this time of year. That and, whiskey.
And electrolytes.
It's what plants crave. I'm cutting that. I hate that f***ing joke. Everyone f***ing uses it. God damn it. Guys, it's just like Idiocracy. Shut the f*** up and do something, all right? Throw a goddamn Molotov cocktail already. Anyways, moving on.
Tell us how you really feel.
Next up, we've got Billy Mae Richards as Rudolph. Now, Richards is best known as the voice of Tenderheart Bear in 1985's The Care Bears movie and its 1986 sequel, Care Bears Movie 2, A New Generation, as well as on the syndicated Care Bears TV show. She also played Billy Connor on ABC's 1960s Spider-Man cartoon. She would return as the voice of Rudolph for both 1976's Rudolph's Shiny New Year and 1979's Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. Unfortunately, she would pass away in September of 2010 following a stroke. So fun fact, on this, she's actually credited as Billy Richards because the producers were afraid that if, you got a woman to voice Rudolph, people wouldn't tune in.
That unfortunately tracks.
Meanwhile, nowadays, young boys are generally voiced by women.
Yeah, because having young boys playing young boys only lasts a couple years before their voice drops. You don't want Rudolph sounding like this. Oh, I'm just a baby with a red nose.
That's how it happened to you? You were trying to play some reindeer games and just...
Yeah, bro, I love reindeer games.
The movie? But Billy Mae! I nails it. Like, everyone else in this voice cast nails it. We can just talk about that all day. But the character of Rudolph here is very timid, very kind, but also very brave. Rudolph don't give a damn. Rudolph was ready to straight up fist fight the Bumble in that cave. Because Rudolph's like...
Billy keeps the little air of innocence with Rudolph, but also he's sort of... She makes you feel all the hardships that he's got to go through because, oh no, he's different. She brings it.
Next up, we've got Paul Soles as Hermie. Soles is best known as the voice of Spider-Man / Peter Parker on ABC's 1960s Spider-Man cartoon, making him the first to ever play the role. Bruce Banner on ABC's The Incredible Hulk cartoon, Danny in 2001's The Score, and the voice of Ambrose Spike on PBS's TV series adaptation of Brian Jacques' Redwall cartoon. Unfortunately, he would pass away in May of 2021. I love the voice of Hermie so much, like that nasally like, I love that voice. It just fits this character so perfectly.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. It does fit him. It's real whiny. I get that that's part of his characterization, but it's a lot.
You're not sold on Hermie the dentist?
Sold, yes. In love with, no.
Moving on, though, we've got Larry D. Mann as Yukon Cornelius. Now, Mann is best known as a character actor, appearing in both bit and guest roles in such shows as Howdy Doody, Bewitched, Get Smart, Hogan's Heroes, The Green Hornet, Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Dukes of Hazzard, the all-new Scooby and Scrappy-Doo Show, and MacGyver. He also played the role of Judge Lee Oberman on NBC's Hill Street Blues. Unfortunately, he would pass away in January of 2014. The best character in this entire special.
Hard agree. Love Yukon Cornelius. What a goof. What an absolute gold and silver and peppermint obsessed maniac. Except I don't like how he treats his dogs. But that's not the voice actor's fault.
Listen, Steve, we all have flaws. Yukon does have a few more, which we'll get to as we continue through the episode, but great character. I would say this is an iconic voice, like this iconic big in personality, like, as you said, maniac.
Yeah, he is a madman.
You hear that wahoo, you know who it came from.
Yukon Cornelius, absolute treasure. Love him, except for the dog thing. Great beard.
Great beard. Next up, we've got Stam Francis as Santa Claus and King Moonracer. Now, Francis is best known, honestly, just these two roles. He didn't do a whole ton of acting in TV or film, and unfortunately, he would pass away in March of 1966. So just 2 years after the special aired, he was gone.
Dang. Literally everybody on this list is dead.
But they're not dead in our hearts, Steve, and I think that's what matters most.
What if our hearts are dead?
Well, then maybe you can ask Santa Claus to bring you another one, as long as you don't have a physical deformity.
Oh, don't let him see my ear.
I'm telling you, like, Santa is absolutely the villain in this film. It's not the Bumble. It's Santa.
Terrible.
Santa is horrible in this. And King Moonracer is kind of walking that line. It's like when King Moonracer is all like, hey, you guys can't stay here because you're not toys. I'll let you sleep on the ground for a day. What? King Moonracer, no. Stop it.
Everybody's got their prejudices.
Him as Santa, though, pretty solid. Again, everyone in this cast is really, really solid with their voice. I only have issues with some of the characters at the end of the day, and I kind of wish we gotten more from Francis here, just so I can do more of a comparison, because I think he did like maybe 3 other minuscule roles when I was looking at his IMDb. Like, he legitimately did nothing of note.
Well, we'll always have this.
We sure will. Next up, we've got Burl Ives as Sam the Snowman. Now, Ives is actually best known as a country musician who has released dozens of albums, with 15 of his 25 singles charting in the US Top 100. He has also voiced multiple roles on radio shows, including having 3 of his own. He was even the originator of Big Daddy for the 1955 Broadway premiere of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, a role he would reprise for the 1958 film. This man could even write, as he was the writer of several books, including his 1948 autobiography. But Steve, we haven't even begun to touch on his TV and film roles. For instance, he was a guest star on Sesame Street along with The Muppet Show, Senator Arthur Justin on the ABC miniseries Roots, and Carruthers in 1982's White Dog. He has been nominated for 4 Grammys, winning 1, and he is the winner of 1 Oscar and 1 Golden Globe. In 1986, he received the Boy Scouts of America's Silver Buffalo Award. In 1976, he was inducted as a laureate of the Lincoln Academy of Illinois and awarded the Order of Lincoln by the Governor of Illinois. Unfortunately, he would pass away in April of 1995 after falling into a coma and succumbing to oral cancer. Brought on by, I can only imagine how much this man smoked, because that voice...
He makes for a really good narrator. I'll be honest, I'm not super familiar with Burl Ives. I'd heard the name before, but he's your fun, like, almost paternal, come around, gather around, children, I'm gonna tell you a story around the fire sort of guy. And I think that works for this story.
Yeah, his voice it's so soft. It's so inviting and warm, like you said. I could listen to this man just read stories. Like, I would love to hear him give a rendition of A Christmas Carol.
I'd listen to that.
Right? And plus, like, the dude's an absolute legend in the country music scene. Like, back when country music was worth listening to. Not this stadium country y'all got today.
Oh, I'm singing about cornhole and drinking beer out of a metal can. Yeah, garbage.
And if you don't like America, you can leave. Try that in a small town. And folks, it's the members of our cast and crew.
Hey, it's a cast and crew!
Next up, the generically named How It's Made.
Hey, how'd they make that?
As always, folks, the generically named How It's Made, I have gone through and compiled an entire production history to the best of my ability, placing it inside of a document. I am presenting Steve this document right now. He is opening it for the first time, and he's going to be reading aloud to all of you, giving us his takes along the way. So, Steve, whenever you're ready, get us started.
In 1939, a manager at Montgomery Ward department store in Chicago, Illinois, was looking for a children's Christmas book to give away during their upcoming holiday season. In previous years, they had handed out coloring books. However, this year would be different, in that they wanted to save costs by creating and printing their own book instead of purchasing a coloring book from a publisher. The manager would tap Robert May, a 35-year-old Jewish ad writer for the store's catalog, asking him to create a brand new character for the giveaway. Simple. No difficult task there. Just give us a brand new Christmas icon.
Yep, and you have less than a year. Go.
Amazing. May was chosen due to his being a hit at holiday parties for his limericks and parodies. They specifically asked him to come up with some kind of animal, akin to Ferdinand the Bull. May, who had always wanted to take a shot at writing a great American novel, took the challenge during what he considered the lowest point of his life. Outside of the American economy still in the throes of the Great Depression, his wife Evelyn was suffering from a form of cancer, causing medical bills to pile up. He would find inspiration for the story from The Ugly Duckling, along with how he was a shy outsider during his youth. It's a good place to start from. The decision to make the character a reindeer was inspired by his daughter Barbara, who liked reindeer, along with reindeer being a Christmas animal. I immediately distrust Barbara in all things moving forward. Reindeer are, as we've said before, the ultimate evil. They are the devil incarnate, and they roam the earth freely, which is a great, great, great disservice to humanity. When coming up with names for the reindeer, some of the names he tinkered with were Rollo, Rodney, Roderick, and Reggie, before eventually settling on Rudolph because it rolled off the tongue nicely. That's a whole lot of R's. Wonder what he thought for the S names.
Reggie, the red-nosed reindeer. I don't know why, but for some reason, I feel like that's the reindeer on the corner drinking a beer. Hey, is that Reggie? Yeah, man, it's Reggie. How's it going, everybody? Y'all in the holiday spirit?
Reggie, why's your nose so red? Don't worry about it.
You're going to sit there and tell me that Reggie the red-nosed reindeer doesn't chug down Mad Dog 2020?
The dude is flying. The idea for Rudolph to have a red nose would come to May one day while staring outside his office window. A thick fog would swoop in and blocking his view of Lake Michigan. Another idea would include giving Rudolph large headlight-like eyes to light the way, before eventually settling on giving him a glowing red nose. He chose noses as he thought kids would be more likely to pick on someone's nose instead of their eyes. Clearly he's never seen a kid with a lazy eye. His bosses would worry that the red nose would make people think Rudolph was an alcoholic, hey Reggie, until he showed them some preliminary sketches of the character. Working on the poem at home, and during his downtime at work, it would reportedly take May 50 hours to write the book. During all this, May's wife Evelyn would pass away from her cancer on July 28, 1939, leaving May a widower with a 4-year-old daughter. May's boss would offer to take him off the project, but May refused, stating, "I need Rudolph now more than ever," before finishing the poem in late August. That is awful. So this is like, Rudolph brought this man out of a depression cave.
Rudolph probably saved this man's life.
Dang, Rudolph. Yeah, that got dark. The book was first distributed by Montgomery Ward during the 1939 holiday season. It was a hit with over 2.4 million copies distributed during the season. Due to wartime restrictions on paper use, a reissue would not occur until the 1946 holiday season, where it would go on to give away another 3.6 million copies to shoppers. During this time, RCA Victor offered May to turn the poem into a spoken word record. However, May did not hold the copyright to the work. At the encouragement of Wilbur H. Norton, a VP of Montgomery Ward, May would be gifted the copyright for free by Ward's then-president, Sewall Avery, in January of 1947. Finding a publisher would prove to be difficult, as over 6 million copies had already been distributed for free. Enter Harry Elbaum of Maxton Publishers, a small New York publishing company, would pick up the book and have it published in time for the 1947 holiday season. The book would be sold along with a slew of other merchandise, such as stuffed reindeer toy, picture puzzle books, and children's slippers. In 1948, May, who had remarried in 1941, persuaded his brother-in-law, Johnny Marks, to write a song adaptation of Rudolph. After being turned down by popular vocalists such as Bing Crosby and Dinah Shore, the song would be recorded in 1949 by singer Gene Autry, whose wife persuaded him to sing it. The song would become a smash hit, topping country music and pop charts, eventually making it the second most popular Christmas tune of all time, based on Billboard charts, surpassed only by White Christmas. That song's really considered country? I can't think, that's not.
The original version of the song, which was, as we said, sung by Gene Autry, was a bit more country style. It didn't have like that Christmassy true vibe about it, if you will.
Well, I'm glad we got a Christmassy version of it and not country, because boo to country. I said it. This would inspire May to write two sequels to Rudolph, 1951's Rudolph's Second Christmas and 1954's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Shines Again. According to Rick Goldschmidt, the official historian of Rankin Bass Productions, the song's popularity kicked off a chain reaction of coincidences and connections. By 1950, Marks had quit his job at Montgomery Ward to go all in on Rudolph. But starting in the late 1950s, merchandise sales were starting to heavily decline. In 1960, May was in such desperate need for money that he would ask Montgomery Ward for his old job back. At the time, Marks was living in Greenwich Village, where he would become friends with his next-door neighbor, a man by the name of Arthur Rankin Jr. Aha! Around this time, a man named Jules Bass, would team up with Rankin to begin creating children's television specials. Rankin would pitch turning the song into a Christmas special with the idea of padding out the story to allow for breaks in commercials. The idea would be sold to General Electric through his connections at Montgomery Ward for GE's General Power Hour, where they would show television specials brought to you by, you guessed it, General Electric. I'm getting 30 Rock vibes all of a sudden.
They would do this a lot back in the day, actually. They would just be like, hey, we're going to do a made-for-like TV film or some weird little hour-long special, or hey, 2 episodes of this show is brought to you by General Electric or Mark's Toothpaste, or just a whole slew of things. You could probably go back and find that around this time, anything that aired was brought to you by blah, blah, blah as part of the blah, blah, blah power hour or something along those lines.
And Jack Donaghy rejoiced. Also, side note, fun fact, the NBC logo, dun, 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 is the notes GEC for General Electric Corporation.
Good to know.
Romeo Mueller would soon be signed on to write the script. He would go on to state that he originally wanted to base the script on May's original book, but he couldn't find a copy of it anywhere, despite the fact that there were millions distributed, instead having to use the song as a source material.
Well, keep in mind, Steve, these are books given to children, and the Great Depression is going on. And what do you think the children are going to do with those books after they're done reading them for the holiday season? Do you think they're going to keep them?
Oh, yeah, they're going to crumple up the pages and stuff them into their coats for warmth.
Or burn them.
America does love a good book burning.
There's not a lot of copies of the original run out there right now, if I remember correctly. They're fairly rare.
That is wild. Mueller would be the one to create and introduce several new characters to the story, including the Misfit Toys, Hermie, Yukon, and the Bumble. Meanwhile, Marks would write more songs for the special, such as Holly Jolly Christmas and The Most Wonderful Day of the Year. Production for the special would begin mid-1963 and last around 18 months. GE would reportedly spend the 2024 equivalent of $4.5 million on production, which required 22 room-sized sets. Wow. It's quite the undertaking.
Advertising was so different back then because you had to spend the money. You had to go big on it because your brand is tied to something that is going to stick in people's minds. Like, how many channels did you think they had back then?
3, 4, something like that?
I think like at most 4. Yeah. If you had a TV and you were tuning in, you were paying a lot of attention to what you watched. And if you watched something that was crappy, do you think they're going to go out and get a GE product?
Well, who else are they going to get light bulbs from?
Internet?
Oh, true. Yep, that checks out. The dolls would be made from a mixture of wood, wire, cloth, leather, and yak hair, with the Rudolph and Santa dolls costing $5,000 each to make, around $48,000 today. They would be crafted by Japanese puppet maker Ichiro Komuro, based on designs by Anthony Peters. The reindeer would sit at about a foot high, and the elves were around 6 inches. Heh, little short elves. Shooting would take place using a stop-motion style called Animagic at Tadahito Mochinaga's MOM Productions in Tokyo, Japan. The figures would sit against backdrops where they would utilize stop-action photography, but utilizing 2 clicks per shot with no retakes taking place. Yeah, they shot it on the 2s, like I said. Each crew member would be assigned 1 character to manipulate between shots. These shots would be supervised by Mochinaga. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer would premiere on December 6, 1964, airing on NBC. It was a smash hit for the network and would go on to air every single year since its release. However, over the years, there have been multiple different versions telecast. The first version was the original NBC broadcast edit. In this one, there was a scene near the end which included Yukon Cornelius, discovering a peppermint mine near Santa's workshop. This would not include Santa revisiting the island of misfit toys to pick up and then distribute its inhabitants around the world, as that scene was never written or shot. However, due to the outcry of children through thousands of letters to the Rankin Bass Productions asking why Santa didn't go back to get the toys like he promised, the next year would include the final scene showing Santa keeping his word. This second edit, with Santa saving the misfit toys, would air between 1965 and 1997, would drop Yukon discovering the peppermint mine near the end, as well as including a new duet between Rudolph and Hermie called Fame and Fortune, replacing the scene where they both sang We're a Couple of Misfits. However, in 1993, the We're a Couple of Misfits song would be restored to the special, dropping Fame and Fortune. Also, starting in 1965, the special would begin airing on CBS until 2023. Starting in 2024, here we are, Rudolph is making his return to airing on NBC for the first time in 60 years. How exciting. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer would go on to spawn 4 sequel holiday specials, a certified gold soundtrack record, books, plush, action figures, and a whole other assortment of crap, including a video game for the Nintendo Wii and DS. Wow. A global phenomenon. An absolute king of misfits.
And let me just advise that I do own a copy of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer for the Nintendo DS. I took the time before this podcast to sit down and play it, and I'm going to give a very quick review. It very loosely follows the story of Rudolph. However, instead of having any kind of action adventure type of vibes, it's just mini games, but they are like the dumbest mini games imaginable. Hey, press A bunch of times to win this race with really crappy animation. Go ahead and press A to jump a few times. Cool, you did it. You passed the mini game. Oh, hey, we're gonna do a paint by numbers on this. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. There's 25 levels of that. I finished it in less than an hour, and the entire time, the sound is just on a loop, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in 8-bit.
Oh, God.
This game got a lot of very bad reviews, and every single one of them are deserved. It's an awful game. This is the kind of game that you would have given, your worst enemy's child when they're about to go on a 6-hour car trip, because this is all they're going to play.
And they didn't even call it Reindeer Games.
Which is definitely a sin.
100%. Thus concludes the generically named How It's Made. Oh, that's how they made it.
All right, folks, before we get to our next segment, of course, just one more holly jolly advertisement break. Stick around. Hey, folks, Corey here, just slipping in, letting you know that we don't really have a lot of advertisers right now. And if you feel that you want to support us and what we're doing, we actually have what's essentially an online tip jar through Ko-fi.
If you're feeling generous this holiday season, we accept tips.
Help us fund so we can keep doing this because let's be honest, we don't get paid, but we still do it because we love you all.
We do?
Happy holidays! Welcome back, folks.
Hey, howdy, hello, hi there, what's up?
Hey there, hi there, ho, ho, ho there, Steve. Steve, we're talking about, of course, today, 1964's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the classic holiday Christmas special.
It exists. It is certainly something.
It is. It's a timeless classic. Everybody loves it, and if you don't love it, then one day you will.
What?
We're talking about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer today. Classic animal, classic nose, Classic name, even. Do you know anyone else named Rudolph these days that's worth talking about?
Nope. Not even with a similarly red nose.
Or hair dye falling onto their face. But politics aside, Steve, I don't know, man. I've been trying to like get my gifts wrapped, early this year. But the wrapping paper just keeps tearing in my hands, and I don't know what I'm gonna do about it.
Oh no. Guess there's nothing to do when your wrapping paper breaks except break down yourself.
Steve, I think that's a good idea. So why don't we get to the breakdown?
Oh, don't do this to me.
That's right, folks. It's the breakdown. Now we're gonna be going through the entire plot of this film that we just watched, breaking it down scene by scene, giving you our takes as we go. Now, are we going to be able to touch on every single little detail?
Bro, we're going frame by frame. We're analyzing the crap out of this.
You can analyze these nuts, Steve, if you think that we're going to be doing anything even remotely like that. It's not happening. Get over it.
Oh, heck.
Heck indeed, Steve. But you know what? I think it's time we put on our boots, put on our hat, get our pickaxe, and go search for that peppermint mine. What do you say?
Let's go.
All right, hitting this breakdown in 3, 2, we are introduced to Sam, a talking snowman who lives at the North Pole and is reminiscing about the year that the world almost missed Christmas due to a huge blizzard. He then decides to tell us the story of Rudolph, the son of Donner, Santa Claus's lead reindeer. I really like the showing us the snowstorm with the newspapers at the beginning to kind of just set the tone of how serious the snowstorm he's talking about is, although it's also kind of like it's like quickly there and then it's not.
I found it a little jarring. Like, you go into this expecting just like, oh, fun stop motion stuff, and then it's just like a newsreel for a minute. Which seemed very out of place with the rest of the tone.
And this narrator style intro would become a staple in framing devices for Rankin Bass specials. They really loved framing their stories instead of tales happening in real time as stories being told to you of things that have already passed. And I think it really works for what they're going for.
Yeah, it's got that children's storybook feel to it. You got a grizzled old man telling you the events. Yeah, it works. Gather around the fire, kids. But not the snowman, because you'll melt.
Well, that's why he specifically says,
well, pull up an ice block and lend an ear.
Yeah, because he wants to harvest all the ears from the children so he can have real human ears. Then next he's going for the noses.
Steve, is everything okay at home?
No.
As the story begins, Donner and his wife are surprised to find that their newborn fawn's unusually red nose is capable of glowing. When Santa visits their cave to meet him and sees his glowing nose, he warns Donner that he will not be able to pull the sleigh if he keeps carrying the trait for the rest of his life, featuring the song Jingle, Jingle, Jingle. Consequently, Donner tries to conceal his nose with a cover made of dirt, much to Rudolph's chagrin. This intro to little old Rudolph is so cute, but of course it's ruined by Donner and Santa being colossal pricks about him being different.
Yeah, like the first thing they say when they see he's got a bright red glowing nose.
Now, I'm sure it'll stop as soon as he grows up, Santa.
Well, let's hope so if he wants to make the sleigh team someday.
You.
What do you expect to clear up about it? Like, oh, it's just gonna fall off? It's gonna darken? What do you mean you hope it clear? You're just saying things at this point. You're just saying things.
It's very mean. It's kind of a mean-spirited overtones to this special here.
And it's trying to kind of get undercut by Jingle, 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 which is a fun song, but if we're looking at it, it's just Santa singing about how great he is. So in retrospect, it's just him being a boastful prick.
Yeah.
Good song, though.
Yeah, it's a serviceable Christmas song. It was familiar sounding.
Meanwhile, Santa's elves are hard at work making toys for all the good little boys and girls. One of the elves, Hermie, spends his day wishing to be a dentist instead of a toy maker. His boss, played by Carl Banas, is outraged by Hermie's persistent disruption with his dentistry studies and scolds him, trying to get him to obey. I love this head elf, just because the delivery of his lines. That,
What? You don't like to make toys?
it's so cigar-chomping executive-like style of voice.
He's great middle management. He encapsulates the bureaucracy of the North Pole very well.
And also, like, when he first starts talking to Hermie, he seems genuinely concerned about him.
There's a pile up a mile wide behind you. What's eating you, boy?
And immediately switches to outrage.
Can't have people being different. That's not what the North Pole's about.
And he, unlike most other people in this special, he's got full eyes going on.
True. Makes him look more human, more relatable.
Shows us right off the bat that he's different without him ever opening his mouth. Also, we get a quick scene that introduces us to the dangerous, abominable snowman of the North, who we on this pod will now be referring to by his Christian name, the Bumble. I like this scene because it sets a bit of tension by first not showing us the whole monster and just letting us know that there are real dangers out there in the North Pole. It's not just a winter wonderland.
Yeah, but like with the all-powerful super magical Santa ruling over the North Pole, if he wanted to do something about the Bumble, he could.
There's so much paperwork involved with that, Steve. And like, then what are they going to do with the body? You know, Steve, you just don't understand the politics behind killing a giant monster.
Clearly I don't.
A year later, Rudolph's parents take him to participate in the Reindeer games, where he and all of the other young bucks are trained to fly and pull Santa's sleigh when they get older. Donner still tries to hide the nature of Rudolph's nose with the cover, which causes his voice to sound as if he had a permanent cold. Despite this, 2 reindeer befriend him, a little buck named Fireball, played by Alvy Scott, and a beautiful doe named Clarice, played by Billy Richards, who thinks he is cute and has a crush on him. I love seeing the joy exude from Rudolph as he's playing with bucks his own age. It's like for a brief moment he was a normal reindeer, and he even gets like, a little doe to notice him,
Yeah, it's a nice little moment where they think he's the same as them in every single way, and they accept him and they treat him like any other normal reindeer. They're doing the reindeer games, just like the song says.
This scene's also got a bit of a great setup as well, because it shows us that Rudolph took to flying quicker than the other young bucks. Like the first buck who tries got like one leap into the air and immediately crashed down, right? Rudolph's first leap into the air, he's flying around in a circle and he lands perfectly. So to me, this is foreshadowing for later on when he's the one who leads the sled, because generally speaking, when you have like a sled pack or like sled dogs or what have you, the strongest one is the one leading.
Yeah, and he not only shows that he's just like any other reindeer, he shows that he's better than them because he can fly better than they can.
And that's because he's powered by GE's new light bulbs.
GE. What else are you going to buy?
During some horseplay, Fireball inadvertently pops the cover off of Rudolph's nose. After seeing it glow, the other reindeer, including Fireball, start ridiculing him, and Comet, played by Paul Kligman, the coach, bans him from the reindeer games as a result. Santa even gives Donner a harsh scolding as well, disappointed in how Rudolph had such a great takeoff but then humiliated himself because of Donner wanting to hide his nose. Clarice is the only one who still likes him and tries to comfort him, featuring the song There's Always Tomorrow. However, their musings are interrupted by her father, voiced by Bernard Cohen, who forbids her from being around Rudolph. So, the young bucks are assholes here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Comet is even worse by banning Rudolph, and Santa is even worse than that by scolding Donner. Like, I think their intent was Santa to be all, why did you hide his gift? Come on, man, that wasn't cool. But given his reaction the first time he meets Rudolph, it really does come off as he's mad at Donner for producing a buck with a red glowing nose. Like, that was his choice.
Yeah, awful. Absolutely terrible. Pro tip out there for any adults. If you see a bunch of children bullying another child, maybe don't join in. Maybe get them to stop.
But that kid's weird, Steve.
Oh, never mind.
Let's talk There's Always Tomorrow. I think it's a well put together song, but it's not very Christmassy, and it kind of makes the plot come to an abrupt halt here. So he's essentially getting a pep talk that doesn't ever really come back around. Like, he never even references, just like, well, it's like you told me, Clarice, there's always tomorrow, never comes back around. So I think, like, the song is just, it looks nice, it sounds nice, but it's not a Christmas song, and it just doesn't do anything really for the plot overall.
It does nothing for me.
And then Clarice's dad coming out there real hard with that racism.
No doe of mine is going to be seen with a red-nosed reindeer.
Yep, reindeer are evil. Reindeer are the worst.
Except for Rudolph.
He's got some secrets.
Every soul he takes, that's how his nose glows. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I mean, that tracks. He's a reindeer.
Let's not give horror movie producers any ideas, okay?
Yeah, how long until Rudolph becomes public domain?
10 more years.
Nice.
Yeah, 10 more years and we could get a Rudolph the Red-Nosed serial killer, all right?
His nose is red for entirely different reasons.
Meanwhile, back at Santa's shop, the elves perform a song for Santa, but Hermie is nowhere to be found, featuring the song We Are Santa's Elves. Furious, the head elf finds Hermie tinkering away on dentistry. Refusing to change his interests, even under the threat of losing his job and being ridiculed by his fellow elves, Hermie resigns and runs away.
It is such a short I Quit song. I get that we got to keep the plot moving along, but why even bother putting a song in there for that?
Well, the whole reason for this song is because later on, Rudolph does his own version of Being a Misfit song while he's alone. And it's kind of show that they're both on the same path. Like, hey, we are a bunch of misfits. We're misfits together kind of thing. Like they're what they want to do in life and why they're a misfit isn't the same exact thing. But, it's a bonding moment for them when they eventually come together and sing the song.
Yeah. You got to be all logical about it.
Let's talk We Are Santa's Elves. The song, like most of these, very cute. Honestly, like there's really not a lot to these lyrics, but the cute gags, like the elf who cuts off the feather of another elf because it just keeps poking him in the eye. It's a very sweet song that encourages the holiday spirit while also showing the joy that all these elves feel working for Santa.
Yeah, and they are just disasters at performing the song. Like, they sing it fine, but aside from the elf chopping off the other elf's feather, another elf gets stuffed into a bag, an elf gets knocked out by another one. These are some violent elves. They need an outlet. They need a rage room.
And then you got Santa over there not caring about the song. Like, he's even before the song starts, he's like, yeah, whatever, just play the song, because all he cares about is getting ready for Christmas. But my guy, your workers who bust their ass year round for you are like, hey, we wrote this song for you and we'd like to perform it for you. Yeah, okay, whatever. My guy, just could you give a compliment, please?
Well, maybe if they performed better.
You also gotta feel bad for Hermie. He's just trying to make his uniqueness work for the greater good. He even pitches to the head elf like, oh, hey, what if we made dolls with teeth? And the head elf is like, that's a stupid idea. Why would you give dolls the ability to chew? Which eventually would become a thing. And it was recalled because children's hair was getting caught in the teeth and like ripped out.
Oh my god.
So technically the head elf is correct here, but he doesn't give that reason. He's just like, nobody would want this. This is stupid.
You'll never fit in.
Yeah, he's not wrong. And the way that maybe I just interpreted this wrong when I saw this scene, but it looked like to me that the toys already had teeth and Hermie was just straightening them, but he was doing it with a hammer. Like, he's just hammering away at the mouths of these toys, and that's supposed to make him a dentist.
Well, he was making the doll to have teeth. He wasn't hammering teeth into them. He made the doll. That at least my interpretation is he made the doll to have teeth. And he was kind of like as a prototype, if you will.
But the head doll walks in, and all we see is Hermie just smashing away at these dolls' faces with a hammer.
Yeah, that's making toys. Have you never made toys before?
Clearly not. Except for that one time in Missouri, but I'm no longer allowed in that state.
Steve, are you on a watch list?
Moving on!
Hermie eventually meets Rudolph, who has run away into the forest, feeling outcast and heartbroken. They bond after they discover they each have something that makes them unique. After deciding to be independent together, they set out to seek their fame and fortune, featuring the song We're a Couple of Misfits. Shortly after, however, the abominable snow monster of the north, a carnivorous monster who hates Christmas and feeds on reindeer, soon begins chasing them due to being attracted to Rudolph's nose, but they manage to escape him. I'm telling you right now, this special needs just a few tweaks to the script, and it's actually a bromantic comedy.
Yeah, Rudolph and Hermie on a road trip together.
And then they pick up Yukon, who's a hitchhiker. Wait, hold on. I think I just started describing the Muppet movie, like inadvertently.
Perfect.
It's like they pick up a lovable weirdo. Who's the lovable weirdo? Oh, they picked up Gonzo, right? I think Jim Henson's got some things to answer for. Let's get him on the pod.
Jim Henson, you want to come on the pod? We've got some questions for you.
Let's talk We're a Couple of Misfits, though. This is serving to show the playfulness and bonding between Hermie and Rudolph. they each sang like a quick version of this earlier, but now they're doing a whole song and dance. They each get a few lines to show off their individual frustrations, all while they're running around, they're laughing with each other. I think it's a song that properly serves its purpose, and honestly, it's kind of catchy.
Yeah, I got no problems with it. Like you said, it shows that they are kindred spirits. They both feel out of place in their respective communities, and they can bond over that. It's cute.
Then you have the Bumble peeking over the mountain at them, and I just want to make a note. This was one of the scariest things to me when I was like a very small child. I would legitimately cover my eyes while watching this just because you got the one hand coming up the end, he's like peeking over this giant mountain. But also notice they still don't do a full reveal here yet. They're just still keeping that suspense alive, but giving us a little more than what they gave us last time.
Piece by piece, inch by inch, bumble by bumble.
The next day, Rudolph and Hermie meet Yukon Cornelius, a prospector who is obsessed with finding silver and gold, featuring the song Silver and Gold. The abominable snow monster, which Yukon refers to as the Bumble, appears again and pursues them, once more due to being attracted to them by Rudolph's nose, but they manage to escape on an iceberg thanks to the Bumble's inability to swim. Meanwhile, Donner, now racked with guilt over how he treated Rudolph, goes off to find him. Clarice visits Rudolph's cave looking for him, but then sets out with Rudolph's mother, voiced by Corinne Conley, to help find him. We said it before, we say it again. The intro to Yukon is great. Yukon is the best character in this entire special. He is energetic. He is weird. He got a unique look compared to everything else we've seen in this world. He's even got a gun.
Yukon Cornelius is the man. But again, he's very, very mean to his dogs. They're tired. They just want to chill out, have a good meal. And he's just like, no, mush, go forward, blah, 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 blah.
I mean, at one point he does just pull the sled himself, so I guess it's kind of the trade-off a little bit.
Yeah, but he does it in such a dickish way. He's like, this is how you pull a sled, you jerks.
Well, in reality, they are jerks.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Those are some good dogs, Corey.
Let's talk Silver and Gold. It's a nice midway song, but again, plot comes to an abrupt halt. But this one gets a pass from me because at least it's about Christmas.
Yeah, and this is another song that has staying power. Like, you still hear it every so often nowadays.
I could do without the lecture from Sam midway through the song about how important it is to decorate a tree.
But Corey, you gotta decorate a tree. You gotta find a tree, you gotta bring it indoors, and then you gotta put stuff on it. It's very logical.
Speaking of illogical, we finally get the full Bumble reveal, which now serves in finally showing us the monster we've been made to fear so far. And this also shows the guilt that Rudolph has about his nose because it almost got him and his new friends killed.
Poor Rudolph, He's just trying to make it in this world and be his true self and everything, and everyone wants to come at him for it.
And, speaking of coming at him for it, I just gotta make a note here. So, Yukon has a gun, right?
Yes.
Never uses it. Yukon, you have a giant monster chasing after you. Use the gun.
That's a good point. Or maybe he doesn't use it because he does share a list of things that he's looking for, that he's like in town to pick up. Cornmeal, gunpowder, ham hocks, and guitar strings. So maybe he was just out of powder.
I still would have liked a scene where Hermie's like, use your gun, and he's like, no gunpowder, kid.
Yeah, I would have loved that. Agreed.
Because Hermie's like generally the more sensible one amongst the three. And I feel like he'd be the one to call out, like, why don't you use your gun? Because I feel like Rudolph probably doesn't even know what a gun is. And Hermie's definitely making him for those, Bible Belt states, so.
Oh yeah, he sure is. But I don't know, Rudolph's a reindeer. Reindeer are pretty sketchy. He might know what a gun is.
Also, I'm going to tell you right now, this wouldn't be something that aired in the early 60s if it didn't have just a pinch of misogyny, such as with Donner telling Rudolph's mom,
No, this is man's work.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I had to write that one down too.
It's a rare black spot, I would say, on this special when it comes to how well did this age, because that did not age well. But then again, the Rudolph's mom is kind of like, you're gonna go out and look for him anyway, screw you.
Yeah, but gotta put in the belittling women somehow with some character, some sort of thing. Just one more, just like standout moment from Yukon Cornelius right here.
Silver! I thought you wanted gold.
I changed my mind.
I love it. I love that delivery.
That man is chaos incarnate.
Wahoo!
Love it. Eventually, the trio arrive on the island of Misfit Toys, a home for unloved toys ruled by a winged lion named King Moonracer, featuring the song The Most Wonderful Day of the Year. Because they are misfits but not toys, he allows them to spend the night there, requesting that, when they return to Christmas Town, they ask Santa to help find homes for the misfit toys. However, while Hermie and Yukon rest, Rudolph leaves on his own, having realized that his nose is a danger to them. Finally, we are on to the island of Misfit Toys. And I love these guys. Did you have a favorite one growing up?
Again, this is one that I saw like maybe once when I was a little kid and it just did not stick with me. Oddly enough, the one that I watched way more was Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July.
I don't think I've ever seen that one.
It's okay.
I like Charlie in the Box personally, just going to throw that out there.
My issue with Charlie in the Box is why can't he just go by the name Jack? He seems like a perfectly functional Jack in the Box. It's just that his name is Charlie, and that's what makes him a misfit.
See, if I started calling you David, would you be okay with that? Just change your name. You'll fit in more.
I mean, if my entire existence hinged on me being named David and my well-being, then yeah, I'd probably go by David.
So what you're saying is it's okay to conform if it's for survival.
Well, like, who gives the name to the Jack in the Box anyway? Like, I feel like it's not written anywhere. It's a toy. And for that matter, it seems like only the misfit toys are the ones that gain sentience. So you could say that this Charlie in the Box didn't even have a name until it got rejected.
I guess that's an argument to be made.
There's holes, Corey. There's holes in this plot. And for that matter, the water pistol that only shoots jelly, just put water in it.
He's not designed for it, Steve. He's only designed for jelly. No jam, no preserves, jelly only.
Pretty sure water would do fine.
I feel like you haven't called out the worst one, though, which is a dolly who is specifically for Sue.
I did leave that out, but yeah. What makes that doll a misfit? Just that she's for someone named Sue? I missed that part.
I guess like some people have started the idea online that it's because she's depressed. Like she's a depressed doll, so that's why she cries all the time, but it's never brought up. So the only thing that's brought up in the song is, oh, who are you? Like, I'm a dolly for Sue, specifically only for Sue. So you're telling me that every Sue in the entire world has a dolly?
And you know what? Dolls that cry, there are plenty of them out there.
Maybe she cried a little too hard.
Cry hard with a vengeance.
We'll also talk King Moonracer, because, okay, flying lion and a crown. What?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is awesome, but it's completely out of nowhere. It's just a way of trying to add more, like, mysticism to the world that we're already in. Yet we just dealt with sentient toys. So I don't know. Like, the design is cool, but it just doesn't track overall if you look at everything else.
Is he supposed to be also a misfit toy, or is he an actual lion with wings?
I'm gonna just assume he's an actual lion with wings. And he probably, although he could be a misfit toy given that name, like that's total Moonracer. That's totally a name a child would give a toy.
True. But like, massive jungle cat with the ability to fly seems like Santa should be all over that.
He's too busy worrying about the elves making more toys.
Outrageous. That's who should be leading the sleigh.
A few months later, Rudolph grows into a handsome young teen buck. He decides to return home despite still being ridiculed by the other reindeer when they see him. When he arrives back in his cave, he finds that his parents are not there. He learns from Santa that Donner, feeling guilty over the way he treated Rudolph, went off looking for him after he ran away, and his mother and Clarice went with him. Rudolph begins searching for them just as a terrible blizzard starts, and he soon finds them being held captive by the Bumble. He attempts to rescue them, but is knocked unconscious. Man, screw those bucks for continuing to be dicks to Rudolph.
Yep, gotta ridicule the different kid. Keep it going.
I had something almost similar like that happen one time. So I went to summer camp a few times, and I think I brought it up here before. I was a very angry child, a lot of issues. So of course I get bullied a lot. And the last year I went to this summer camp, I actually punched a kid out because he was just being a total dick. And I'm just like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I almost got like kicked out and the whole thing. And then afterwards I was like, I don't want to go back. I was selling at a toy show back in my early 20s. And a group of kids come up and they go, "Hey, is your name Corey?" And I go, "Yeah." "Hey, we went to camp with you. We stayed in the cabin together." And I'm just like, "I don't remember you." Like, "Yeah, you were like camp blah blah blah." "Yeah, I don't remember you whatsoever, guys." I'm just kind of like waiting for them to like, please just say something. I'll still punch you out. I don't care. But like, it was just like really awkward. Like, haha, yeah, I totally remember you guys being dicks to me. I don't remember your names. I just remember you guys being assholes. It's awkward. AF.
Yeah. That's the right move though. Pretend you don't know them.
I didn't remember who their names. I didn't remember their faces. But if they were like, we stayed in a cabin together, I probably didn't like you. That you were a douche.
Yeah.
Also, notice how Santa isn't at all worried about Donner's like well-being here. He's more worried he won't be able to get his sleigh off the ground without him.
Yeah, because he's a dick.
Is he a dick or is he task-focused?
He's a dick. But also, like, Donner, according to Santa, has been gone for months looking for Rudolph. Why is Santa in Donner's cave?
Looking for him?
After months knowing that he's not there. Like, Rudolph comes back and Santa's just chilling in the cave.
Well, no, Rudolph comes back and Santa enters in after him. So maybe it's possible Santa saw Rudolph going to the cave and was just like, "Hey, your dad's not here, kid."
F***ing Santa. And also, Rudolph, like, on his journey back to home, suddenly has the epiphany that growing up means you can't run away from your troubles. Okay, but we never see Rudolph learn this lesson. He just decides it because he's older now.
Don't you know that, like, you don't have to learn lessons as you grow up? You just magically mature?
That's why you get charged less for auto insurance when you turn 26.
The math is mathing, Steve.
You got me.
Also, when Rudolph and the Bumble are having their showdown, do you think the Bumble almost recognized Rudolph? Because I feel like you don't forget a reindeer with a shiny red nose.
Oh, I'm sure he did. That's why he had to hit him with a rock. Which, by the way, should have killed Rudolph. And then the story ends there.
Rudolph should have been the jelly that was going into the water pistol. Telling you at that point. Yeah, no, wild, but it's cartoons. They get a pass, I feel like, for cartoons, though.
Yeah. Children.
Fortunately, Hermie and Yukon arrive, having been sent there by Sam, and hatch a rescue plan to save Rudolph and his family. Luring the Bumble out of the cave, they knock him unconscious, and Hermie extracts all his teeth. Rudolph awakens, but when the now toothless Bumble tries to block them from escaping, Yukon chases him to a cliff, eventually knocking himself, his dog sled team, and the Bumble over the edge. Yukon takes about 3 to 5 seconds to whisper a whole plan to Hermie, right? And their plan is silly, effective, but silly. And yet again, I have to bring up, Yukon, you have a gun. And because of that oversight of you just not shooting the Bumble, you're now dead.
Nope, just gotta tackle him. Self-sacrifice, baby. And they also drop more rocks on the Bumble's head, which, again, should kill him.
That should have killed the Bumble for sure. That 100%. Bumble dead. Bumble big dead.
So much attempted murder in this special.
You know, it wouldn't be Christmas without a little bit of attempted murder.
Well, you got me there.
Mourning Yukon's apparent death, the others return home where they tell everyone what happened, after which Rudolph and Hermie stop being ridiculed. Santa promises Rudolph that he will find homes for all the misfit toys. The boss elf agrees to let Hermie open his own dentist office next week, and even Donner apologizes to Rudolph for being critical about his nose. Just then, Yukon and his dog sled team, who survived the fall, make a grand entrance with the Bumble. Yukon informs everyone that the Bumble has reformed and has come seeking a job. He proves his worth by placing an ornamental star on top of the Christmas tree without using a stepladder, and everyone decides to keep him around. So it's a quick, sweet moment between the boys and those who ridiculed them. Just a quick scene to show everyone, hey guys, it's going to be okay. We're all accepting you now, for reasons.
Santa only realizes after they've defeated the beast that maybe he shouldn't be such a dick. Maybe.
But hey, Yukon's back.
Yukon!
With the classic explanation.
Didn't I ever tell you about Bumbles? Bumbles bounce!
He would know.
He has firsthand experience at this point. Also, I get that the Bumble is the bad guy here, but they just took a carnivore's teeth out. That Bumble's not going to survive the week.
That's a good point. He's going to starve to death. Even if they find more handicapped reindeer to feed him, he's not going to be able to get him down.
They probably started feeding him elves, too.
Heyo.
I mean, were blenders invented by this point?
That's a good question.
The first blender was invented in 1922, so they did have blenders at this point. So technically, they could just be making him meat smoothies every day.
There we go.
Ugh, God, I think that's worse. I think that's worse than just letting him starve. Like one elf's job the whole time is there's like, yep, I just chop up the meat for the blender and feed it to the Bumble.
I mean, well, if one elf wanted to be a dentist, maybe another one wants to be a butcher.
And a baker.
But no candlestick makers.
Why would you have candles when you have GE light bulbs, Steve?
Now's the time for you to buy the General Electric blender.
Did he say only 10 1/2 inches high?
Exactly.
On Christmas Eve, Santa receives a report saying that the blizzard will not subside, so he decides he'll have to cancel his annual Christmas Eve flight. While announcing the bad news to his elves and reindeer, however, he is caught by Rudolph's glowing nose and, realizing that its light could cut through the storm, asks him to lead his sleigh, which Rudolph agrees to, featuring the song Holly Jolly Christmas. What a happy ending, Steve! Everyone learned the most important lesson of all. That which makes you different is only a bad thing unless the powers that be can profit from it. Capitalism, baby.
Yeah, no, that is unfortunately the message of Rudolph, which is not great. Also, when Rudolph gets picked to lead the sleigh, Donner has to chime in with,
I knew that nose would be useful someday. I knew it all along.
Fuck off, you're an awful dad, and you tried to make him hide his gift his whole life.
So a typical 1960s father.
Exactly.
But Holly Jolly Christmas, however, fantastic song. I think I actually put this in my top 10 favorite original holiday songs.
Episode 40.
And I wouldn't be surprised if I put it on there, and I think I did. I honestly think I did. It's been forever since we've revisited that list. If it wasn't on there then, it's definitely on there now. It gives the vibe of an office Christmas party where everyone's had just too much of that punch, but not so much to where they're all plastered. They're happy drunk.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, they are. I got nothing.
Do you like jazz?
Yeah, I just, these people, except for Yukon Cornelius, they just, yeah.
After making the preparations, Rudolph leads the sleigh to the island of misfit toys, and Santa takes them along on the flight where they are dropped off to their respective homes. With Rudolph leading the sleigh, it turns out to be a Merry Christmas after all, closing out with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I really do love how they revisited the island of misfit toys to help find them homes. The fact that they completely forgot to do that for the first runaround, I could totally understand, especially back in this time, thousands of children writing in hey, Santa was supposed to save the toys. What was that about?
However, it raises an interesting pickle. If these misfit toys are sentient, and it seems like only the misfit toys have gained sentience from what we see in Rudolph, they're dropping these sentient toys just into the homes of children. I feel like this is going to create a Nightmare Before Christmas kind of situation, where these kids are just horrified by the fact that their dolls are alive and are odd and are just a little bit off. I feel like you're going to cause a lot of terror, which tracks with how awful Santa is.
But what if they lose their sentience once they're in their home?
So they just murdered a bunch of people?
No. Just took their souls out. Different.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I think you bring up a good point, though. I think that's definitely going to scare a few kids, and I'm now envisioning a Robot Chicken sketch where one of the toys comes to life and the father just kicks the toy into the fire.
Yes, I can see it.
Let's talk, of course, the titular song, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Ending on this song is smart for a few reasons. One of which being, you're saving the hit song for the end, so you're keeping people tuned in for it. Watching this, they're going to have this song in there at some point, right? Finally, they did, right at the end. And why is it at the end? The song is supposedly based off of the story we just watched, right? Because as Sam put it, well, now that you know, and it goes right into Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And then they changed the lyric at the end to, he went down in history. Because it already happened.
It's smart. It's smart. It's a fun classic song. Like I actually remember singing that song on the school bus around Christmas time, like in elementary school. Like some kids, kids would just, I don't know if kids is on your bus, but legitimately like just start singing like Christmas carols on the bus. It was the one time where I think everybody was united.
Yeah, I never had that.
Now I feel like a jerk.
Good.
But of course, you have Santa ending it all on that iconic
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
It brings a bit of warmth to my heart until I think about how Santa was a colossal prick this entire time.
Yeah, he was.
And folks, that's the breakdown.
Oh, we broke it all the way down.
We sure did, Steve. Now, before we break it down, anything else, just another quick commercial break. Folks, you've been asking about it for years. You come up to me, you come up to Steve, and you say, guys, where's the merch for the pod?
I know, right? Just leave us alone for 2 seconds, people.
That's right, Steve. We've been way too busy doing all types of other things, such as jumping jacks and putting together puzzles and
documents.
Tons of documents. But who has time to sit there and truly set up a merch store?
Not me, I'll tell you what. If only there was an easier way for us to open up a merch store to sell our merch to people.
Well, you know what, Steve? There is live right now. We have the That Sounds Terrible Go On podcast store, and it's all available on redbubble.com. Go to redbubble.com. Look up our store. It is TSTGo-pod. Again, TSTGo-pod. You'll see fun little things that we say on here. You'll find stickers, shirts, hats.
That's some high quality merchandise if I ever did see it right there.
So that's right, folks. Hit up redbubble.com, search TSTGo-pod, all one word, and we'll see you there.
Capitalism, baby!
Welcome back, folks.
Hey!
We got hollied, we got jollied, and Steve, I think it's time we help ourselves to some of these Christmas cookies, Not too many of them, though.
No?
No, Steve, I think we should just go ahead and just take a
little bits.
Ooh, just a little bit.
That's right, folks. Little bits of the part of the pod. We get to those things we didn't get to say. Maybe some fun stuff we learned along the way. So, Steve, you got any bits?
Yeah. So Santa and Mrs. Claus, throughout the special, always refer to each other as Mama and Papa. They don't have kids. I'm not counting the elves as their children. I'm not counting the reindeer as their children. They don't have kids. Maybe they're just into some weird stuff in the old North Pole bedroom, but I don't know. It didn't track for me.
The children all around the world are their children too, Steve.
That's not true. I mean, at least I hope not. Brings a whole new meaning to I Saw Mommy Kissing Santa Claus. Corey, you got a bit?
I sure do. I'm going to start with a little bit of a sweet bit. So, as late as 2004, Paul Soles, who we talked about, played Hermie, and Billy Mae Richards, who played Rudolph, lived in the same retirement complex in Toronto together as friends.
Aww.
Yeah, I just think that's really cute.
Yeah, a couple of misfits.
Steve, you have any bits?
Yeah, so our sweet, awesome, lovable Yukon Cornelius is coming to the North Pole because he's trying to mine for gold and then later silver. I initially thought, this is very odd. Why would there be gold or silver in the North Pole that's made out of all, ice and rock? I doubt there would be any there. But then, wouldn't you know it, the squirrels find a giant chunk of silver. And Yukon Cornelius never sees it. The squirrels are better at mining than Yukon Cornelius is. And he's supposed to be the greatest prospector.
He's supposed to be looking for a peppermint mine the entire time.
I thought that was only at the end.
Well, he changed his mind.
Right. He initially comes there looking for gold and silver.
I feel like the money's in peppermint, honestly.
Elaborate.
No.
Corey, you got a bit?
This is a bit of a longer bit, but since those involved had no idea that this was going to be such a smash hit, those stop-motion puppet figures used in production weren't really well preserved. Rankin claimed in 2007 to be in possession of an original Rudolph figure. However, 9 other puppets were given to a secretary for Rankin and Bass, who then gave them to family members, which would, be damaged over time because kids are handling them. And then they actually stored them in their attic. And they weren't discovered until, I want to say like mid to late 2000s. They actually ended up being brought onto the Antiques Roadshow at the time. 2 of the figures were appraised between like $8,000 and $10,000. So eventually people did get together to restore it. Specifically, Kevin Kreis would buy them and then he would restore them through a company called Screen Novelties, which is a LA-based collective of film directors specializing in stop animation. Yeah, they were then sold at auction in 2020, getting $368,000 for that. They were then donated in December of 2020 to the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, Georgia. I think it makes sense for them not to think that this was going to blow up as big as it was, and the fact that it's aired every single year for the past 60 years, effectively making it the longest running consecutive Christmas special. But the fact that they just gave him to a secretary who gave them to children who abused the crap out of them, and that secretary just put them in an attic that they just happened to stumble across one day.
That's crazy.
Steve, you got a bit?
A funny joke that we skipped over that I just want to point out. When the crew is on that ice drift and they're just floating through the whatever sea, ocean thing that they're on, we got Yukon Cornelia saying,
"Fog as thick as peanut butter."
You mean pea soup.
You eat what you like, I'll eat what I like.
Just love how, immediately he flies off the handle about that.
Which I feel like peanut butter would make more sense for someone, traveling around the tundra as Yukon would, because it would keep a lot better.
True. Yeah, pea soup would just turn into a pea popsicle.
Yeah. And more protein in peanut butter, too.
Man's got to figure he's got to maintain, keep up his strength.
Ham hocks and peanut butter.
Oh. Corey, you got any more bits?
I sure do. So if you look at the title card, you'll notice that the copyright says MCLXIV, which would mean this was copyrighted in the year 1164, which was well before copyright laws ever existed, right? So what happened here is they accidentally left out an M on this screen, because that would have made it MCMLXIV 1964. So while this seems like a silly mistake, it actually became a bit of a major problem. In the Copyright Act of 1909, it specifically required copyrighted works to list the correct date for their copyright. Given that the copyright, even though it was just a typo, it still applied. Meaning that this was copyrighted in 1164, many, many years before that ever existed. However, in 1976, there would be changes to the copyright laws to amend that aspect so that if there was a mistake or something like that, it wouldn't automatically keep you from getting any kind of copyright protection. However, it would only be for works copyrighted after 1978. That would mean the whole special's in public domain, right, Steve?
Yes.
Nope, incorrect. You see, the main character of the film, Rudolph, was under copyright starting back in 1934 when the Rudolph book was released. So the character of Rudolph is not in the public domain. However, the following characters are the Bumble, Yukon Cornelius, Sam the Snowman, Hermie, all of the elves, the Island of Misfit Toys, and King Moonracer. So pretty much every other character in there is open domain.
Just like forever.
Forever.
Amazing.
Including the design of things, which we actually kind of briefly touched on when we were talking about 2003's Elf.
Episode 67.
Because initially, they had designed the elf costumes there and a lot of the North Pole to resemble the Rudolph special. And lawyers were concerned, hey, I don't think we can do this because it's copyrighted. And turned out it actually wasn't copyrighted. It's the whole reason they were able to use Buddy the Elf's costume, which is just the costume of the head elf in Rudolph.
That's amazing. Just because somebody forgot to type the letter M. Wild.
Little bits!
Oh, just a little bit.
And now it's time for everyone's favorite segment.
Oh, the Untitled Ben Affleck segment?
That's right, Steve. It's As Played by Ben Affleck.
Untitled Ben Affleck segment.
Now, for those who've never listened in, As Played by Ben Affleck.
Untitled Ben Affleck segment.
is when we choose a character in the film that we just watched to replace with Ben Affleck. Now, there are 3 eras of Ben Affleck that we have to choose from, so we choose a character to replace with Ben Affleck. What era and why? First off, we have the Good Will Hunting era Ben Affleck, which is when he was the indie darling and just starting to get into action films. Next up is the Jiggly era Ben Affleck, which is the rom-coms starting around the release of the Jiggly film. Finally, we have Batfleck era Ben Affleck, where he's older, more chiseled, and got that beautiful salt and pepper beard. Now, with that being said, Steve, who are you replacing with Ben Affleck? What era and why?
I'm going to be replacing Rudolph's father, Donner, with Gigli era Ben Affleck. It not only fits like how much of a dick he is, it also would be kind of funny to see just a full-grown adult man in a world of reindeer complaining that his reindeer son is different than everybody else, when in fact he's just an adult human man. There's layers to it, you see. Corey, who are you replacing with Ben Affleck, what era and why?
I am going to be going ahead and replacing the Bumble with Batfleck era Ben Affleck. Specifically, that era of Ben Affleck, live action in a Bumble suit, just kind of green screened in. One, I think it'd be really funny because he would just look very defeated the entire time. And 2, he's got the build for it.
Yeah, he does.
Maybe have him slip an occasional line here and there, just like, yeah, and Bumble's bounce. Wish I knew that. Just, something silly every now and again. It would be awful, we'll be honest, but hey, I get to make the choice.
That's the game, baby.
And that's going to wrap up as played by Ben Affleck.
Untitled Ben Affleck segment.
And of course, leading us to our final question, which is, of course, Steve, would you watch this special again?
Honestly, it's serviceable, but it's not the kind of thing that I seek out. It's probably not.
And under what conditions would you watch this again?
If I'm in a Christmas party kind of situation, there's some drinks going around, everybody's got ugly sweaters on. Yeah, I could enjoy it in a group setting.
So you got to be in your holly jolly mode.
Exactly. Got to be full on Crimbus. Corey, would you watch this again?
Absolutely. I love this special. Loved it since I was a kid. Watched it every single year. Try to watch it every single year now as an adult, but obviously time makes fools of us all. It's cute. It's fun. I love the characters. I feel like it's a classic story, even if there are some issues with some of the plot themes and, Santa being a dick the entire time, really, and never learning a lesson, but benefiting from it. Either way, tons of fun. Would watch this again. And folks, that's going to wrap up 1964's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We did it.
Oh, we sure did. That was quite a journey.
But see, we're just getting started in our holiday episode season. What do we got next on the dock?
Yes, next up, we've got the 1998 made-for-TV classic movie I'll Be Home for Christmas, starring none other than Jonathan Taylor Thomas. That is going to be quite the event. I have not seen it. I've heard not great things about it.
It is certainly a film that is not without some level of charm, given that it's Jonathan Taylor Thomas at peak stardom at this point.
Peak JTT.
Peak teen heartthrob, if you will. But, folks, we'll get to that next time. Until then, I've been Corey.
I'm Steve.
Bye.
See ya. God, I wish I had something jingly to shake right now. Hey, Reggie. America does love a good book burning.